And
Okay,
we're live,
I think we're
looks
actually
like.
on now. Okay, so, all right, we'll go ahead and get this started. Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this Spacemen with Guns special report. The Horus Heresy is dead. It was reported last Friday on Bell of Lost Souls that the heresy is dying and has now died. Now to go live to our reporter, Chris Pretty from affiliate station TFL 30K. Pretty, what can you tell us?
Well, it came as a shock whenever we saw the news that heresy was dying. I mean, when that came across the teletype, the teleprompter, whatever those things are that old school newsmen used to get. We have one of those, and I came across. We were shocked, man. The heresy is dying, and it must be saved. And our first response was, "It's dying? Really? That's what's happening?" Because we have no sign of death here in our area. In fact, heresy seems to be strengthening. And it's been TFL's observance that's not only strengthening here in South Texas, but across the nation. So I'm a little befuddled as to this news flash that came across. And I really want to dig in and find out more of why heresy might be dying, because we don't think that it is. I don't know, maybe Jake from Coming to the Fire has a little more insight than we do.
Well, you know, I kind of had the same thoughts that you had. I was noticing some growth. There was a lot of hardness for heresy, but I guess according to the latest reports, that would just be rigor mortis.
So are you saying that the players still playing heresy are in fact necrophiliacs?
I mean, if the shoe fits, I guess. I mean,
oh, that's disturbing.
We are what we are.
Derek, over at RFI, have you guys been having sex with the dead corpse of the heresy?
Well, maybe not with the heresy. I know. I was honestly shocked when the news came across.
Oh God!
We've been having sex with the corpse of other dead game systems, just not the heresy. I know Kimmel likes MechWarrior or BattleTech, so that may qualify as a dead game.
I didn't think Dark Age.
BattleTech, Robotech. But yeah, we were just as shocked as you guys were when the news came across our the fucking thing, the teletype. Yeah, when the news came across our teletype, I just know it as the news. That's just where I get my news. But when the news came across that heresy was dead, we were stunned. We were taken aback because we're out there. We're in the field. We're harsh on the road to Adepticon. Everybody's working hard. I'm painting. Y'all can't see me now because my webcam has been one of the first casualties along this hard, arduous road.
Wait, so heresy died and it took your webcam on the way out? Is that what you're saying?
All I'm saying is only the good die young. Only the good die young. Some might say
heresy was not taking any prisoners on the way out.
It's too pure for this world. But
well, ladies and gentlemen, we now return you to your regularly scheduled program. Breaking story on your local news. Okay, so have you been having sex with a dead corpse of heresy?
Oh, it's questions that have to be asked. I mean, maybe so RFI is kind of like the Dan Rather of heresy, whereas here at TFL we're more like the Geraldo Rivera.
And Spacemen with Guns is like the Star Tribune or one of the
Jon Stewart.
So wait, does that make Horus InfoWars?
Sure.
Tim's love of conspiracy might lean it in that direction.
So does playing a dead game make us all hipsters?
Ooh. That's a very good question. Oh, fuck. I gotta figure out which stupid episode I'm on now, and I gotta make sure I save this so that I don't lose it.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure, seeing if we're broadcasting on the YouTubes.
We are.
We're okay. I just need to refresh this page then. Yeah, I'm still not showing under.
Here, I'll shoot the link to the thing.
Yeah, because I'm on the Spaceman with Guns podcast homepage for YouTube. I don't see our video.
You got it.
All right, hang on. I may have to reshare the link to our everybody out there. Oh, here we go. Yeah, let me just fix that link. So those of you watching at home, this is the joy of live TV. Actually, people that watch TFL, they're kind of used to this shit. So
yeah, I'd imagine.
yeah, it's just like
start 30 minutes late and still not have shit together.
Yeah.
All right, we've got 4 people on. 2 of them don't have webcams. One of them's audio's all fucked up. We'll be all right.
Yeah, let's roll with it.
Okay, so we're up to episode 23. Good to know.
Yeah,
okay.
The link here.
Hey, we've got somebody viewing. That's a first.
Oh, hello. Hello
Sweet.
there.
Hi there, whoever is viewing.
All right, I've updated the link so people out in the world should be able to see us correctly now.
Muy excelente.
All right.
Let me make sure it works.
Okay.
And it works. Sweet.
Double check because I'm paranoid because I've lost audio before. Make sure this saved.
Yeah, on the plus side, bad comes to worse. Somebody can always figure out a way to rip it from YouTube.
Yeah,
I'll just
that is
play it and
cool.
record it.
Some call them pirates.
Yeah.
Others call them heroes.
Hey, I think I found. Okay, I'm gonna shoot out this link to copy. See, Samson's out and about. I'm gonna see if he wants to jump in with us.
Awesome.
Oh, geez.
It's like a bonus episode of TFL, but shittier.
All right, yeah, sent the thing to Samson. So, all right, cool.
All right, so we'll go ahead and kick this back off. Hello, folks, and welcome to episode 23 of the Spacemen with Guns podcast. We are going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're actually recording this live on YouTube right now. We're going to kind of dispense with the usual format of the show, so no hobby update or other random shit that you guys don't like to hear me talk about anyway. But I'm joined here by an absolute cast of all-stars. We've got Chris Pretty from TFL. We've got Derek from RFI. And, of course, welcome back, Jake, from the newly returned to Internet Radio Covenant.
That's it. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
thanks
the
for having
big
us on,
thing,
man.
it's my pleasure. I'm glad you guys could join me. I feel honored that you would devote your time to such a half-rate podcast as the Spaceman with Guns.
Well, shit, if yours is half rate.
Really, the only one stooping down is Derek.
Well,
if you stop and think about it.
okay, the best parts of RFI are not here on this podcast with y'all today.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So the big thing, and I think this has already been covered by Macca from the Outer Circle. I don't know if any other podcasts have covered it yet, but I'm sure it will come up soon. The article was released by Black Blowfly. Can't even say his name correctly. On Bell of Lost Souls last Friday, stating that the heresy is dying and needs to be saved. Now, this has generated a huge amount of controversy across the community, with most of it on the side of heresy is not, in fact, dead or dying. It's probably stronger than ever. And there's been a lot of animosity, let's put it. There's been some pretty harsh conversations going on, but we're just going to kind of take some time here, and we're just going to kind of discuss this. We're going to go through the article and kind of just have a little roundtable discussion on the state of the heresy here on the first day of 2018. So, do we want to go through the article, or do we just kind of want to point out the flaws with it right out.
I don't know if there's a lot to go through. Even I mean, it was more of just kind of a opinion piece centered around the heresy is dying and it needs to go to 8th edition or else it'll be dead.
Yeah, I don't like heresy, and here's why you shouldn't as well.
Yeah, I think my take on it, and I agree with both Derek and Jake. My take on it is, I don't want to do a blow by blow, and I'll tell you why. I'm as much as we've kind of gone back and forth, I hesitate to drive any more people to go read this thing or to go to Bell of Lost Souls. There are a couple of things I'd like to call out about the article when we start getting into it. Just some, I think, factual errors, if you will. But yeah, I'd rather talk about what's going great in Heresy and why people should be excited to be in Heresy and why Heresy is honestly the strongest it's ever been at this moment.
Absolutely.
Bar
when book 1 came out.
I think that without a doubt, Heresy probably is better. It's in the best state it's ever been before. I mean, if we just look back a week ago today, Forge World released the Horus Heresy First Edition rule set.
Mm-hmm.
And it temporarily broke their ordering system on their website because so many people were trying to buy it and they couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Forge World kind of got a taste of the Adepticon live cart situation with a number of Heresy players jumping in and ordering that book.
Which, yeah, and again, if we want to look at how quickly things sell, look at Tarsus 4 that's coming up that Tom and Stu from Geno 5.2 are putting on.
Mm-hmm.
The event sold out, broke the system, and oversold in a matter of 3 minutes.
Jesus.
That's 180 seconds. If I do
That's
math
huge.
right, and I don't do math right. So how many 40K or Age of Sigmar events have sold out that quickly?
None to my knowledge. I mean,
Exactly.
the big events that have happened, and we'll just take Adepticon this last year, did not sell out like that for 40K. And then you fast forward even through the summer at some of the bigger events that were going on that didn't sell. Yeah, Comic Palooza is a pretty big event in Houston. They ran a 40K tournament, which is generally a pretty big tournament. That didn't sell out. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty positive and bold statement as to how well the Heresy's doing. For them to get that response, and I think you're seeing it. You go. I made the mention about Adepticon, the live card. Once again, the number of people jumping in, and I realize it's not just Heresy players. Look at how many Heresy events sold out. Look at how they expanded and added an additional Heresy event. Kimmel's event, Ascendancy to Ruin on Thursday, to accommodate what people were asking for. And then look at some of the other stuff going on. Heresy Camp. That's not coming up till next September, and tickets are already selling for that. And that's a pretty pricey affair. As you stop and think of how, what's going on with that. And if the Heresy was dead, would you see people spending several $100s for an event, not inclusive of actually getting to the event? I don't think you would.
Yeah, I think we do kind of have to acknowledge that with the release of 8th edition, it was a temporary slowdown in the Heresy communities worldwide. It definitely did not kill Heresy. And I mean, I kind of want to, reiterate Pretty's point. We don't want to drive more people to read this stupid op-ed piece, which I will point out, at least Bell of Lost Souls, or I think Freddie called it balls of loaded shit, was smart enough to label it as an op-ed piece.
Yeah, that's kind of a first.
The problem with the article is it offers no hard evidence that Heresy is actually dying. It might have gone just a little bit dormant because of the release of 8th Ed. New shiny kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
That's what 8th Ed was. I haven't played it yet. I know 40K has always been more predominant in my local area, but there's still a fairly good, strong Heresy community. I mean, it might only be 5 or 6 people, but they haven't, none of them have just straight up quit Heresy since the release of 8th edition.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that the game has changed. And I think that I've been trying to, after reading the article, I've been trying to think about his perspective as to what he's trying to say when he says that heresy is dying. Because I think what is happening, and I think it's pretty objective to say, I think that the game is changing because you've lost now. Basically, Forge World is responsible for their own rule set now. So they are on their own. It's its own separate game. It's no longer a piggyback onto 40K. So what you don't have, like from my perspective, one of the reasons I got into Horus Heresy was because it was using the same rules, except it had better army rules. So I could take the same rule set that I was used to playing, but the way that they made the armies play was so much better than trying to build Space Marine lists or, playing against Tau lists or playing against Eldar lists, etc. And then on top of that, you see the community, you see the fluff pieces, you see the books, you see the paint jobs, all of the things that make Heresy what it is, and in my opinion, better than where I came from. But what you do lose, and because I've experienced it a little bit in my community has went very much dormant. And a lot of that is my fault, and a lot of that is, just kind of circumstances and not having a rule set and 8th edition coming out. A lot of our community a lot of the gamers we had were folks that played 40K but switched to 30K because 40K 7th edition sucked. So as soon as 8th edition came out, they kind of reverted back to that. And they said, we're going back to this. Now, what we haven't lost is the people that were Heresy specific, like this is our game, not our refuge. Like this is what we want to be. We still have those guys.
Mhm.
So what I think he's trying to say is that you will lose the ability to gain new players in the long run because the game is not keeping up with 40K and it's not as easy to come across party lines anymore. But I think all it does is it puts the impetus on us now more as a community to keep growing the community. And I think that honestly, I think the game's in a better place now just because I think the rule set matches the army list. I think that it's more fun to play now. I just, there's a lot of elements of 7th edition that work so well, and the rules are written so well with 7th edition core set that I just don't know that you'd ever, especially as Glacier movement as Forge World is anyway, there's no way they could come up with as good of rules for 8th edition in a timely manner. It's just not going to happen. So I think we're all in a better place right now. They've taken ownership of it. Now we have to take ownership of our hobby and our communities and really pump this thing out and get it going forward.
And I think that's actually an exceptional strong point of the Heresy community worldwide. It's a very niche game because there is it's a relatively high input cost.
I paid $210 for 2 rule books the other day. Yeah, it's
yeah. But then your best way to get started is with Betrayal at Calth, and that's $150.
Yep.
But considering the value you actually get in that box compared to buying all of the things in the box separately, which are now available separately, the actual savings in the box are enormous. Now, the other thing is sort of the unspoken but still clearly spoken sort of requirement that if you're playing Heresy, your shit's full of paint. Now, no one said it had to be painted good. As long as you paint to the best of your abilities, then go for it. But for me, painting is actually part of it. That's mostly the reason I do it, is because I love painting and I really enjoy it. So that's most of why I do it. And the gaming is kind of just an ancillary benefit. But I got a friend who lives up in Alberta, Canada, in Calgary, and after listening to the podcast and talking over Instagram and everything, he went out and bought himself a Betrayal at Calth box.
Hell yeah.
And he's doing word bearers, which, not all the it's a new player coming in right now as we're getting new rules. Yes, there's been kind of a lull in the releases for Heresy model-wise, but we also have to consider the fact that sort of the Primarch of the Heresy, Alan Bly, may he rest in peace, is no longer here to drive the whole thing forward. Which
Well, and you got the same guys that are writing the index, trying to update all these rules for 8th edition for the 40K units, trying to fill both roles. I mean, it's just things are so busy, and you got Necromunda coming on. You got the specialist games happening. There's a lot of shit going on in Forge World land right now. So it's not it's not completely not understandable as to why they're kind of behind the 8 ball. You lose your number one guy, and then on top of that, you have a new edition for 40K.
No, I agree 100% with that. I think that's a big factor. When you start talking about, well, Forge World's one of the points that's where I was, Forge World isn't supporting it like it has been in the past. Well, that's true to a degree, but I think just for the reasons you said, we lost Alan Bly, which, he was the driving force. You talk to really anybody that's in the know over there from the different authors, and they'll tell you that he was the lifeblood of the heresy as far as the game line goes. There's a lot of great people to work on. I'm not saying there's not, but he was the guy with the vision. He was the guy with the grand plan. And so you lose him, that's a setback. You've got 8th edition that comes out, and Forge World that had not really been putting out much in the way of 40K units for the past couple of years is now switching gears. They've got the Forge World rules that they did for the existing 40K. The Red Scorpions are seeing some new sculpts, which is awesome. That was my very first Forge World army was Red Scorpions for 40K. So I have an immense love for them. I love their fluff, all that stuff. Then you look at their support, doing some support for Primaris Marines. They had that atrocious looking super tank that came out.
That's so bad.
Yeah, I don't care for it, but if you're a Primaris player, you probably loved it, I'm guessing. But so they're doing that. And then, as Jake just mentioned, Specialist Games. Specialist Games is back in a huge way versus a year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You've got all this different stuff that's come out. That's all under Forge World's banner. So I could see why they've slowed down. I don't think it's going to be a forever slowing. I think they've just got to kind of get equalized and level set with what they're going to work on, what they're going to release. And I have a feeling that, as we get farther into the year, we'll see some more releases. And then as we get closer to Angelus, I think we'll see some more stuff coming out. But I in no way do I think that Forge World's current actions are an indicator that the game is being forgotten or being left behind or in its death throes.
Oh shit! No, I remember back as a longtime 40K player, I mean, I remember going almost like 10 years in between updates of the Imperial Armor books.
Oh yeah,
and that was before Heresy. That was back when the only thing they had was the Imperial Armor books, and it would take them literally, almost decades to get back to one, to where you'd have rules. There'd be 3 editions in between an update for the rules.
So I want to throw something else. We're talking about Forge World and their driving of the game. In the article, I said I wanted to kind of point out a couple of things I don't really think are factually correct. The author mentions the 2 plastic sets, Drellic Burning Prospero, which I think are great. I bought both sets. I think they're great for the hobby. I think they're great for getting new players. But that was a GW thing. That wasn't Forge World. Forge World is not the driver for that. That's GW's stab at getting a little piece of that heresy pie.
That's it. And you can buy them at your local game store.
Mm-hmm. And just as George was saying, you got a great, fantastic deal. Those boxes are tremendously good deals. But then you have people that also go out there, and I know people that have bought the singles, which to me is just nuts, buying that plastic Contemptor singly. I'm just like, suck it up, buy the box set, and if you don't want the other stuff, sell it for profit, and don't pay $50 for a box of Marines or whatnot. Is just kind of my outlook on it. But yeah, I just want to point that out because it's not really an indicator of anything. GW not putting out plastic heresy. That was just honestly kind of a bonus for some of us players, and then I think it did do a good job of getting some new people. Yeah, and it got some new people into the hobby when it came out. I think if anything comes out, we look at it as a bonus, like, hey, GW did this, but we're going to get a couple of new players because for a reasonable amount of dollars, they can get into heresy.
Oh shit! I see Samson.
Oh, look at that
for the party. Is this where all the dudes are?
This is where all the dudes looking for dudes to play heresy are congregating tonight. So
this is the pants party.
Welcome David Sampson of Black Label Painting to the show.
Hola.
Yay.
We continue on with all the reasons why heresy is not dying, and in fact, probably better than it ever was.
So dumb. Heresy's dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I do hope that they'll at some point put out another plastic box set, just because there may be something I can use, and
Mark
I'll buy
II.
'em. Heck
Oh,
yeah, man. That would be
I'm
cool.
sure
Don't
they
do that.
Mark II Assault Marines.
No,
Fuck,
don't
so
do that
bad.
because I've already paid $200 for a whole squad of them. And if
I
it
just
comes
bought
out in
40
plastic, I'll just be pissed off.
Yeah, I just bought 40 of them.
Oh shit, Samson! I only bought 20. Wow, that hurts my heart.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm
I don't
sure-
want to get one of my Greylayers bolters, but fuck, I don't have enough bolt pistols in a Prospero box.
I'm fairly confident they will probably release another box set, but again, I think 2017 was kind of an aberration. Again, because of the aforementioned loss of Alan Bly, as well as the release of 8th edition. Definitely for Plastic Heresy, because they're putting all that production into the new Death Guard and Primaris Space Marine models. Okay, where are they going to find the people and the time to create these models, render them, design them, so that they can be produced in plastic? Because, like, the difference between the resin models that we buy from Forge World, and I mean, there's huge differences between the resin models and the plastic models. The plastic models are actually typically made out of metal molds. I'm not sure if they're steel or aluminum, but they're actually cast or machined out of aluminum, whereas resin models are typically made from like a room temperature vulcanizing rubber. So it's more like a silicone mold. It's a lot softer, and you get a lot more detail, obviously, out of that resin. So the time that it would take to actually create those molds to do more Plastic Heresy, they probably just didn't have the ability for, because they had so much resources devoted to 8th edition, which
Yeah.
I think, led to the obvious slowdown in heresy related stuff from GW and Forge World. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with the heresy, because again, like has been said several times already, Forge World is now the master of their own domain. They're they're the ones in charge of the heresy rules now. It's heresy 1st edition. It's no longer Warhammer 40,000 7th edition, or even 6th edition from when heresy first came out.
Yeah.
So, those reasons, the fact we've got so many just insane models, we've got events that are selling out in just unprecedented times. We have, books for the game that are breaking ordering websites the day they come out, because so many people are that hashtag hard for heresy to get their hands on them.
Yeah.
And I can understand, because 40K is Games Work. That's their flagship. That's their property that has put them on the map and made them millions, if not billions, of dollars in 25 years, or however, since the Rogue Trader days. Age of Sigmar hasn't done that. Warhammer Fantasy probably did. Heresy probably doesn't make them. There's no doubt it doesn't make them nearly as much money as 40K does, but still, it's got an exceptionally strong and loyal following across there on a Monday night, 10 o'clock here in the central time zone. We've got how many podcasts have come up in the last year alone?
Yeah, Christmas Day should have been a clear indication that the heresy's not dead.
Oh yeah.
Like locking down their system, everybody freaking out, like, holy hell, we can't buy books. I was mad. Probably missed out on the little pieces that go in there.
I think George just mentioned something I think is a really great call out. The number of heresy podcasts. So when I started playing, I've been playing since book 1. When I started playing, I'm going to count After Lunar as a heresy podcast because they covered the book. So I was listening to that. Imperial Truth. And whenever independent characters would talk about it, that was pretty much my exposure from a podcast standpoint. You fast forward to today, and just in our podcasters chat, I mean, how many people are in that chat representing how many different podcasts?
There's a mess of them.
There's a mess. Exactly. I don't even have a count. Well, actually, I could have a count, so bear with me just a second.
There's certain ones that chime in more than others.
Yeah, but so actually, it's going to tell me how many people are in this chat.
Well, and the fact that the chat goes 24 hours a day, it covers the entire globe.
It never stops.
So
Yeah.
I wake up and there's a whole list of messages to go through. And by the time, some of these people go to bed, a lot of us are getting off work. And then by the time they wake up, we're going to bed. And they've got a whole list of shit to go through.
The Wolf Lair got no breaks.
Yeah, it's entertaining as fuck.
So there's 36 people in this chat representing, I'm not going to count all the podcasts, but I would say easily representing 6 to 10 podcasts.
Oh, at least.
Yeah, that are 30. And these are 30K specific podcasts. These aren't, hey, we talk about 30K sometimes. So these are just
it's not like
people
Loaded
who
Dice
talk about
or,
30K.
independent characters or some of the other ones where they just occasionally talk about heresy.
I think 10's probably conservative.
Yeah.
Because we look at it, we've got at least 4, 5. I think we've got at least 5 here in the United States. So there's us, obviously Covenant of Fire, RFI, Drop Podcast or Easy Initiative, as well as what's Kenny's podcast? He's in
Combat Phase.
Combat Phase. That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
then
Kenny covers a lot of 30K, so I would count him. Yeah, definitely.
Then you've got 2 more in Canada. You've got GT, Teo, the King Beyond the Wall. You've got obviously Age of Darkness, JP, Mark, and Miles.
The Northwest Fox Cats.
It seems like every week in the UK there's a new heresy podcast.
Yeah, so there's counting TFL, which I know we're more of a webcast.
I would count TFL.
Yeah, counting TFL, you're looking at 10 in North America that are represented just in this chat.
And you've got at least probably 6 in the UK.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Sweden's got a bunch. I think every player in Sweden has his own heresy podcast.
There's what 3 or 4 strong ones like coming out of
Sweden. Oh, you've got Varangian, you've got
Northern Heresy.
Northern Heresy. You've got Don't Lose Your Head.
Yep, Don't Lose Your Head.
I'm missing one. Who am I missing, guys?
I thought that's all there was in Sweden.
I thought there was one more that got added to the chat here a while back. I may be wrong. But the point being,
I think Don't Lose Your Head was the most recent one with Nicholas and
well, there's Sam, but his is YouTube.
Yeah,
no. He's it's Unremembered Heresy. He does have a podcast now.
Yeah. Yes, he does both. He steals the women's from his YouTube page, and then he
that's one beautiful man.
Yeah,
hopefully I'm not going to watch those videos anymore.
Yeah, no, it's too dangerous. Too dangerous.
Oh, you talked to Sam lately?
You're like, no, he died. He's gone.
Terribly disfigured.
Yeah. There is
we cannot forget to mention Michael and Tim down in Australia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, there's just, so whatever kind of heresy content you're looking for, you can find it. If you think one show sucks, well, there's like 15 others you can listen to.
Yeah, law of average is going to kick in. You're going to find one you like.
Exactly. And then, like, seriously, in the last year alone, there have been close to probably at least 6 or 7 new ones. Technically, we started in 2016, so we don't count as the last year. But
we almost didn't release all last year.
There's another one. Start up with Dan Porter, ain't he? Dan getting ready to start one as well?
Phosphex Party.
Phosphex Party.
Can't wait for that one.
That's gonna be so fucking rad. I can't wait.
It's just going to be industrial accident stories.
That's fine.
And I'd be cool. I'd be okay with that.
I kind of wish somebody would do a podcast for that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's not one out there.
I like watching.
Well, I guess RFI.
I was about to say RFI exists.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah, they do get a pretty good industrial accident / weird story quotient.
Yeah, puppies and coolers.
I'll never forget that shit in the cooler story.
Yeah.
For as long as my days, man, I'll never.
Dude, the RFI wouldn't be the same without Scott. even before they put him
No.
on the fucking
Scott's a
podcast.
gentleman and a scholar.
But yeah, if you
that,
So-
that clip that got posted on YouTube, oh my god, I must have played it 48 times.
oh
I
his
was actually
his
just
rant?
about to mention that. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I'm just in the background of that recording, like pulling my collar, like, is it hot in here? Oh fuck. It's like, yeah, get your fucking shit painted and stop fucking bitching about the heresy. I'm like, okay, man, goddamn, calm down.
So okay, you brought
I'm
it up.
trying. I'm trying.
You brought it up, so I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, that is one of the things I don't disagree with Scott's rant, and I know we get a lot of shit as heresy players. There's the term elitist thrown around, but when I listened to that, I had to agree with it, and it's something I think we think, and it's not that saying we're better than anybody else, but you come to events, and I cannot name one major event that I went to or gone
That's a
to. and
standard, right?
Yeah, it's
I mean-
everyone paints their shit. You know, most people I know aren't even playing their stuff in public if it's not painted.
I
You
have
might
not played my fist yet, and I want to play them so damn bad, but I haven't.
Yeah, same here. My Imperial Fist, I've gotten asked. So I got asked even this last weekend, hey, when are we going to see the Fist? And I was like, I am nowhere near ready. And one of the people that asked me as a 40K player, well, just slap them on some bases, bring them out. I was like, no, that's not how you get
tell you what
people
you're
into
not gonna
heresy.
Get your ass kicked saying something
I'll
like
tell you what you're not going to see.
I mean, shit.
You know,
My wolves may not make the table until I get to Adepticon.
yeah,
You know, I mean, and I'm okay with that.
no, I support that 100%. Quick story. 2 years ago at Adepticon, I brought my word bearers, and I got them tabletop ready just in time to get to Adepticon. I had not played them prior to Adepticon because they weren't painted. And I got to Adepticon and realized I had left my Sakaran Venator at home. So I was short an integral piece of my list.
Yeah, it's kind of important.
So those guys gave me the option. I went and bought a Sakaran Venator I went to the Forge World table and bought it. And I came back and I'm talking to them. And they're like, yeah, you can play it unpainted. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, man, I even assembled it. I went to the side, assembled it, because thankfully it's in a model that goes together super quick. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and Nate and all those guys were like, dude, we know that you didn't come unprepared. This is just an accident. You drove 20 hours to be here and left your model. You can roll it unpainted. I'm just like, man, I don't feel comfortable. And so Nate loaned me a couple of Demos laser Vindicators that were painted and did match my army, so that I could roll appropriately, because I as a player was not comfortable being at that event and putting out one single model that was not painted. I would have been embarrassed to, even though the organizer's like, it's cool, you can use it, don't worry about it, we know you just went and bought it so you could roll something. I was like, no, I can't do it. I was gonna sit out the event rather than play an unpainted Sakaran Venator.
Because it sucks,
that's-
right? Like, I mean, every time you go to take a picture, like, and maybe it's because, I mean, I've got a 30K podcast, I've got a Facebook page, and then, before that I had a 40K podcast for about 4 years. So, I'd go to events, and of course I'm going to pull out my phone, start taking some pictures, kind of give people a rundown, and it just sucks ass whenever you put your models out on the table and you start taking pictures and there's a giant unpainted Wraith Knight, or you're fighting a whole squad of gray guys. And it's like, it ruins everything you're trying to share with everybody else. It sucks.
No, I'm with you.
Immersion
So
is just out the window.
Yeah. And I don't think that's elitist. I think that it's, if we all agree that that's something that we want to do as a community, that we want to have painted shit on the table that looks awesome, because that's kind of the whole point of buying models and then painting them and then playing them. Like, that's the progression. I don't think that's elitist. I think that's the standard that we set as a community, and we adhere to it.
Well, and I think it's one of those things that when people see it, let's say you're at your local game shop, when I go in there, and there's a lot of people I'm friends with that play 40K, that play 8th edition, they're back into the game. And I remember going in, this is months after 8th edition dropped, and people are still rolling unpainted armies. Like, people that bought into 8th edition when it first dropped, bought their models, and they're all still primed. There's I'm not saying every 40K player is like this. Please, you guys out there, don't take that, is what I'm saying. But I think the community doesn't foster the the completionist
elitism
aspect of it.
Oh, that's
Making sure that you're ready to tell that story on the table. You're not just putting out something to get some rad combos. You're putting it out there to tell a story.
Well, but what turns heads, right? Like, I mean, I'm not a good painter. Like, I feel like I'm an okay painter, but I'm not a great painter by any standard. But when I pull my shit out of my case and I put it completely painted onto the tabletop, all of my pretty resin and my neat models and things that people don't normally see at the game store, it turns heads. Like, people are like, what is that? What's going on? What are you doing? What are you playing? And you want to get people into the hobby, show them cool shit. Don't show them a bunch of fucking unpainted models that, I mean, it looks completely different, and it gets people interested in the game, and it gets people it gets your motor running. Like, when you see a fully painted army, you're like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like, it's just cool. So why wouldn't you do it?
Here's what you do if you really want to get people into the game. You get a beat up, piss poor painted cestus, start stripping the paint off the damn thing. All of a sudden you figure out, hey, I can actually get this thing in pieces. Then you get the thing soda blasted, slap some LEDs inside of it, and you're just like thinking, man, this is awesome as fuck. And everyone else is like, dude, you're fucking crazy. Why are you spending this much time on it? And I'm like, because I fucking can, because Heresy's awesome and I want to do this.
Yeah.
Just make it that better.
Fucking reasons.
Anything
other than that.
Is that how we save Heresy?
Yes, we put lights in things.
Throw some LEDs on it.
Fuck exactly.
But I think it's Derek. I think that's the way you keep Heresy alive. I will tell you, just from a local standpoint, when I've played in the local shop, 9 times out of 10, well, at this point, people that know TFL locally, they know all of us exclusively play 30K. There's none of us right now that are playing 40K. But even before 8th came out, people would see, 2 people playing Heresy, and they would walk past several tables of Warhammer 40K, come up to the Heresy and go, oh, you guys are playing Heresy. A lot of it is because just the love put into the models and the attention put into the models. It wasn't just, hey, here's some great plastic on the table. Here's some great plastic Tyranids fighting some great plastic, Grey Knights or whatever the fuck. They knew just from the standpoint of, hey, these people are showing up and rolling out these really cool armies. And I'm not the greatest painter. I'm not even saying it's like, hey, look at Chris's pro-painted shit. And the only time I get that is when people see More Donatus, and I say, well, it is truly pro-painted. That's why,
he's kind of a dickhead, but he's an all right painter.
But no, it's just what Jake said. I'm an average painter, and but I make sure my stuff's ready whenever you see it in public. It's not like, well, it's primed or I've got my base coat on and nothing else. No, it's ready for showtime.
Yeah, I think they talked about that on How I Met Your Mother, how a group of average-looking women look way hotter than they actually are just by being in a group.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another thing I was just going to mention. It's like you talk about how we put so much love into our models. Well, when you consider how much we pay for these things.
Yeah.
I mean, before Betrayal at Calth came out, you would need at least 10 Space Marines to run a Pride of the Legion list. 10 Space Marines plus an HQ. Well, those things, a 5-man squad of Mark IV comes out at like 23 pounds before you even add in the weapons. So it's like, of course we're going to take time to, make these things look good and make them look as awesome as we can on the table, because they cost a goddamn much.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I did say Sorry, just step on my dick.
Just stomp.
Okay, anyway. Okay, I'll go. I almost forgot what I was going to say. I was like, God damn it. No, I was just going to say, I know there's people out there that if you're listening, you play 40K, you're like, oh, I paint my 40K stuff, I bring it to the table. But it's how are you fostering that atmosphere, though, in 40K? And that's how you build it. Do you go and say, hey, I'm going to play, hey, if you're going to play me, hey, is all your stuff painted? Let's let people see how cool this looks. If you want 40K to be talked about, like we're talking about Horse Heresy, that's what you got to do. You got to be a be a representative of what you expect in the hobby. And you don't have to be pro painter. I mean, but get your stuff done.
What I like about it so much is that in the 40K community, that the guys that do paint, 3-color minimum at the least.
Mm-hmm.
But the guys in Heresy that paint their stuff, the world's greatest, but they at least try to go above and beyond past that 3-color minimum bullshit.
Yeah.
They realize that it's just the immersion of the game. It's just, you can't do it with just plastic. And that's dumb. Like everyone always refers to, you go play checkers or chess.
Yeah. Well, but I think also, though, I think event organizers, even small event organizers, they play a part in this too. I know this was a conversation. We've run 3 stiff events, and even from our first stiff event, it was fully painted. I'm talking, this was an event with 10 guys at Zach's house, but it was like, hey, we're going to roll, everyone that's coming is fully painted. So stiff 2 got to be fully painted. We even talked about it before stiff 3. Do we want to keep that expectation? Because we knew we could probably have additional attendees if they weren't worried about painting their stuff. But our stance was, we want people to look at these pictures and see beautifully painted armies, or painted armies, just painted armies on the tables, because we're spending time having great looking terrain on these tables. And it's part of what Heresy's about. It's a historical, I've never seen a Napoleonic army unpainted on a table. And I think that's a good way to look at Heresy. It's a historical war game. Those war gamers, historical guys, do they play unpainted? No, I've never seen it.
Well, what's funny is,
go ahead.
Historical war gamers have the same stigma I remember back in the day as Heresy players have now.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, like the old HMGS guys would be just old cantankerous fucks who were elitist. Understand why? Because
everybody wants something different from their game, right? Like, and I hope 40K sells a shit ton. I hope that 8th edition is successful, because we're rats on the ship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if 40K goes down, we're going down with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want something different from my game and my event and my experience than what you get from a standard 40K event. Not saying there's anything wrong with the 40K event, just saying what I want is different than that. And Heresy gives me that. And I think there's a lot of people that feel the way that I do. And I think there's a lot of people that'll fight for this community because they want to keep this segment, this group of like-minded individuals that are all playing this dumb little game with army men together, and keep it going in this direction. And I think what, the more I think about it, I think he was trying to, what he said is that this was dying, that the game is dying. I think the game is at a crossroads, just because we now, like I said, we have our own rule set. We are a separate game. We are either going to grow or we're going to shrink. I think we can control that. I don't think it's decided yet, but I think that we are indeed at a crossroads right now, just because it's the first time we've ever had our own rule set, and we'll see where it goes. But I think we have a lot more control over that than just saying, oh, some bitch is dead.
Well, and I think that was kind of his main argument as to why Heresy was dying, was because it didn't go to 8th edition, which I think there was a Reddit a couple of weeks ago. Somebody who was one of the writers on the periphery of the Heresy mentioned that Alan Bly did have every intention of taking Heresy to 8th edition. But, of course, with his passing, that all just fell by the wayside. They're like, okay, let's just get 8th out, and we'll take care of Heresy when we can. And I think maybe Forge World actually got some feedback to the point where they listened and said it sure sounds like the majority of Heresy players want to see it stick with 7th edition, which was a great what am I trying to say here? A great idea, because I think not necessarily the complexity, but the more in-depth and rich of 7th edition lends itself to Heresy so much better than 8th edition would have. And Jake, I think you kind of touched on this earlier, that they would not have been able to translate the feel of Heresy to 8th edition that well.
Yeah, I think so. It's 8th edition, just from my exposure to it, it is more streamlined. A lot of people love that. but I think its biggest benefit for being streamlined comes from a competitive tournament setting. And you look at what we're looking for. Jay just talked about everybody's looking for something different, right? I think all of us in this group here are representative of the players that are looking for that tactical narrative game. And when you take away things that take away your ability to put tactics in, i.e., how am I going to have to face this vehicle so that I have the right firing arcs versus I'm going to back a basilisk up behind a big building with a cannon pointing, to the backfield. I'm going to fire it forward, and at that point, it stops making sense. For tournament play, though, I could see it because it simplifies it, it makes it faster. If that's what you're going for, more power to you. But for us, that's no appeal there.
The realism of it is gone.
Yeah.
The actual tactics. When we talk, you hear about people bringing just their McDonald's trays full of tanks, parking it on the field, got their movement trays, which just makes my stomach turn. That's me personally.
If it makes me an elitist that I hate clear bases and movement trays, then I will gladly wear that crown.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
The first time I saw a movement tray for Space Marines, I was like, "What the fuck has happened here?"
What am I seeing? What am I looking at?
This is not what I know. This is not the game I remember.
Well, the thing with
I'm going to go off.
The biggest thing with 8th, though, the main benefit that people are saying it has is less complexity, and the main argument I hear against it is that it lacks depth. Well, really, like depth and realism, things like that. Well, those two things go hand in hand. Like the more complex your game gets, the more depth you can get. So I kind of understand losing a lot of that, like realism, where you've got tanks backing up, shooting all directions with all their guns. It's just a more basic rule set.
It's almost kind of like 40K is becoming a beer and chips game.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. And talking to, one of my best friends in the world, he left not too long after 7th. He played about halfway into 7th, and he left the game. Just a lot of personal stuff in life going on. But he was a 40K player. Could never get him into Heresy. He said the cost was too prohibitive, which that's fine. Well, he came back right after 8th dropped. And one of his main selling points to me is, wow, they took out a lot of the crunch, and I can play a game faster, because he is looking for a beer and chips, I'm going to fight this other guy type experience versus, I really want to have to think about X, Y, and Z, and then think about the story on top of that, which, that's fine. If that's your thing, awesome, because you're enjoying the game. And, like Jake said, we need those people just like they need us, because we need these things to sell. We need these books to sell. So, that's fine, play that. But that doesn't mean that it's the same thing needs to be applied to Heresy, because it doesn't. It's not, Heresy isn't dependent on needing that to survive.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think, given we keep talking about how quick that rule book was selling and how badly their website handled it early Christmas morning, I think that's a great example. People came out in droves to purchase. I'd love to see the numbers, and we never will, but I'd love to see the numbers of how many physical rule books and how many EPUBs they sold that day, because these people that are saying, like, well, everyone wants it to switch to 8, I think that would be another concrete piece of evidence that they don't.
I would also like to note the piss poor timing of the publishing of this article. just because, again, we go back to how quickly the rulebook broke their website, which if you go through on the Facebook page for Forge World, Forge World does actually say their website went down because of people trying to order the Heresy rulebook, which released on Monday, December 25th, 2017. This article was posted on the 29th? Yeah, the 29th of December.
The strangest thing was that they published, obviously, there's multiple people that contribute to Bell of Lost Souls, but, the very next day they published an article about how to get started in heresy.
I think that was actually later the same day.
Like it's like so I understand you have different people from all across the United States that are contributing to this website, but at the same time, like, is there nobody looking at it like, let's have a specific voice or message, or if it was my site, I would want kind of a consistent message of some kind or another, but to say heresy is dying, and then say, here's how you start the dying game heresy. Like, I don't. That's just it's a strange, and like everybody else said, it'd be one thing. I don't know. I feel like, and I think it's a fair opinion from the perspective of, if you look at it strictly at maybe this is my community, and our heresy players went from 30 to 5, and you said, in my community, like, I can speak from experience from that. In my community, I had events that had 20 people, and now 19 of those people are playing 40K right now. So, like, I see that, but at the same time, I also see on the broader spectrum, if I look outside of my community, I go, yeah, but Adepticon just sold out that I'm going to. There's all these other events that are going on. Maybe we need to take some personal responsibility for our own local communities.
No, that's a great point. And I want to back up just a second. While I don't agree with the article and the author has not acquitted himself very well in the comments section, and that's being kind, I think. If it works anything like Spiky Bits does, and TFL had a relationship with Spiky Bits here a couple of years back. You send in this article. He may have written this article 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. You just send them in, and they go into a big bucket. As contributors on Spiky Bits way back when, I had a view. I could see that bucket and see how much stuff was in the pipe. So I think it's as much the website, they're just putting stuff out because they're not a heresy.
So then you got to question the editor, right? Like, so the editor at that point said, today we're going to release an article talking about a heresy is dying. Yep. Then we're going to release an article, like 5 articles later. Here's the things you need to get into heresy as cheap as you can. Like, that's that's weird. I mean,
no,
whatever,
I agree.
Whatever gets clicks.
No, but in that, no, we all understand that's kind of the main thing. These guys are making their living off of the clicks and the ad traffic to these sites. So that's really all they're concerned about. But the other thing, though, you're talking about taking responsibility for your area and really knowing what the pulse of the community is. The author, this was in the comments section. He kind of set himself up as someone that travels to events, travels to England to events. But I think if you do that, then my assumption is you have your finger on the pulse, so to speak, and so you would know, hey, just to Jake's point, my local area, heresy's taking a dip, so maybe heresy's dying in my local area, wherever that may be. But you look at the grand scope of it, because I travel to all these events and I go overseas for the heresy, you would see that the heresy is in fact the opposite. It's not dying. So that to me is a little odd also when you look at the article and then look at the comments after the article.
If I break a finger and somebody's massaging my foot, I'm not going to say that I'm dead. What I'm going to say is, I fucked up my finger. This sumbitch hurts. But the rest, I'm doing pretty good over here. Like, I got somebody rubbing on my back. I got somebody putting, some cucumbers on my eyes and putting a little bit of lemongrass tea. And my finger's fucked.
Nerds giving me hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these little plastic resin men.
That's
good.
Yeah,
you got to look at it from the broader spectrum, I think, before you start making sweeping generalizations about the community or the hobby at large.
Yeah, no, I agree.
My goal here in Nashville is just me and Homeless Joe. That's it. That dabbles in it, and it's been that way for a long time. The play around here are the competitive 40K gamers. So that's why it's been really hard for me and Joe to build a community here. totally fine with driving our ass to wherever that may be, go to an event. So it's
Samson's going to
Jake's-
come see me in February.
Ooh.
that's right. Going to Jake's to play. Fuck yeah! I'm thinking about bringing the ZM board. You know, if I get it painted.
Do it.
Oh, you're actually going to his house to play?
Well, I mean, we're going to go somewhere.
Oh, that's
Somewhere.
I mean, if we have to
We'll-
come, if it
play
comes down
a
to it,
truck
he can
stop on the side of 24.
Truck stop heresy. That's the new thing.
I will bring a FedEx truck down I-24.
Truck stop
Back of
heresy.
that motherfucker.
We just
Yeah,
started
right.
meeting.
It's just,
That's a new
We
podcast.
start
right
meeting up at truck stops in the middle of the night to play heresy.
I just had this mental image of Jake at a truck stop with his army bag going up to the FedEx truck, knocking on the door like, "Hey, big boy, you want to play some heresy tonight?"
tube top and like a denim skirt.
Yeah.
Little too much rouge, you know.
Just slither on up to that truck.
that butt buzzy.
That's it. Call me Candy.
Oh, now. Yeah, Team Fistermander is going to get real interesting. I can already see it.
Oh. Well, but one more thing I want to point out in regards to, how another example of how heresy is doing so well and is nowhere near its final death throes. Know that coming up in a couple of months, I do have #bout with the route, where Jamie Jackson and I are going to throw down my Ultramarines versus his word bearers. It didn't come to the United States just for that purpose. He actually happened to be in the process preparing to move here with his wife. They're moving to Seattle. I think they're actually here now. So it just happened to work out, but he's actually going to be coming here to Iowa, and we're going to play a game of – he's flying to fucking Des Moines, Iowa to play a game of heresy.
That's awesome.
I mean,
there ain't shit in there in your town, is there?
we got a little bit.
Hopefully he gets
There's
a
like
happy ending out of it.
There's like
There's
five
like
or six
what?
people.
No, that's awesome, man.
What are you saying?
I think that's a great example. Some people will use that as like, oh, kind of an elitist example, but I disagree. I think that, people fly, people drive to heresy. They drive to where the heresy is if they don't have it.
Well, I played
And-
40K since 1998. And I started playing competitively probably 2003, 2004, by the time I got my driver's license and I could actually drive places. But the only time I've ever drove 9 hours to go play a game was heresy.
Mhm.
Like, because I went, you know what? I want to play this game and I want to play it with kick-ass people on awesome tables with, people that are like-minded as myself. And I drove my happy ass to Martinsville, Indiana, and said, I want to play with these guys. And so I did on Mother's Day, that my wife won't let me forget.
Has she seen those tables?
That's the only thing
though?
that kept me going.
That's what I said.
No, I think it's a great
That
point.
was
I
the
know
only thing that kept me.
one of the things that made me proudest about our events that we've done is the people that have come from out of state or out of the U.S. to play. Stiff 3 was kind of our biggest thing so far, and 60 players. But we had Michael John from Australia. We had Freddie the Swede, the Crown Prince of Heresy, from Sweden. We had dudes from Alaska. Pretty much, if you could think of a faraway place, these people came, and it was, to me, just showed how how strong the community is. And these aren't all people that are rolling in money. These are people, and I'll use myself as an example. I go to Adepticon every year to play heresy, but I plan for the trip. I save my pennies for the trip, and that's just something I allot for budget wise, because I'm not made of money, but it's something I enjoy doing. I'm going to travel to the heresy. We're talking about going to Kansas for David Coleman's event, and I think it's in June. Again, gonna plan for it, gonna make it happen, but it's because we love heresy. And I think a lot of players are in that same boat. They do what they do to make these trips, and regardless of what their hometown scene is like, they go support heresy somewhere else to be with like-minded folks.
I've never been to Adepticon in every single year that it's ever happened. I'm going this year. Why? Because I want to hang out with kick-ass awesome dudes and play Heresy.
It's gonna be so much
I think
fun.
there's a lot of folks that are like that. I think that this game can die, but I don't think it will die as long as we do our job as members of the community. And that's not speaking from a I have a podcast. I'm talking about just I play this game level. And as long as we do our job to foster the community, to not be dickholes, and make sure that, hey, we're all in this for the same reasons, this game's going to be in good shape for a long time.
No,
yeah, I feel the same way about that. That's for damn sure.
Tim and Michael have the. I know you guys are familiar with it, but listeners at home, if you haven't heard about it, they use the term citizen soldier, and it's all about keeping the heresy hard in your area. What are you doing to get others hard for heresy? And it's getting terrain, organizing little events, coming out to events fully painted. All that stuff plays into it, but it is. That's a great point. At the end of the day, it's up to us as players. How are we going to make it live and grow?
Even more so now, and I think I will almost concede the point that I think it may be more difficult now to grow than it was before, just because you can't walk into a bunch of guys playing 8th edition and say, "Hey, you think that sucks, but you like the core rules? Come try it with this." Because that's how I got in. Like, that's my personal experience. I like the core rules. That's my biggest thing, is that 7th edition is still at its core the game that I've played for the last almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So like I've got an attachment to it. Like I'm kind of soft to it. There's things about it that are just, that's the game I want to play. So we do lose that, but at the same time, I think there's still people out there that want the experience that we have. And as long as we show them we're having a kick-ass time, we have awesome models, everything's painted and cool. Like, I don't know, like that's what gets me is before I started playing Heresy, I would always talk about how cool it would be to play this, or how cool it would be to play that, as far as like a narrative style event. It'd be cool if we played Armageddon, a buddy of mine had orcs and I had blood angels. Like, it would be cool if we could play some of that. We never really did, because we were more worried about, all right, well, the next tournament's 2,000 points, so let's start practicing for that. But like the thing I'm most excited about going to Adepticon for is not, some of the events that I signed up for. It's me and Sean have organized a game where we're going to play 4,000 to 5,000 points of Space Wolves versus Thousand Sons. And it's going to be Prospero. It's going to be Magnus versus Russ. It's going to be straight up narrative heresy. And I'm fired up for it. Like, I'm super excited for it. And I've never had that kind of attachment to just a random game before. And it's not an experience that you necessarily, you can get, but it's not as easily obtainable, I don't think, in other formats, in other games, in other systems. But that's what the Heresy gives you. Like, that's the whole point of it. So you don't buy a rule book, you buy these big campaign books that have all kinds of lore and stories and everything. And that's why, in my opinion, the Heresy is not dying, and I don't think it will, because there's people that love digging into it. And they love the story. They love the narrative. They love the whole experience that you get from playing Horus Heresy that you don't get in other places.
Well, and let's also take, for example, the Heresy novels.
Absolutely.
The whole series. 40-some numbered novels, plus all the audio dramas, all the short stories and compendiums and whatnot. You're getting characters out of these books turned into model form. You have people modeling, doing an exceptional job. Like, if you guys want to see Dave's latest work, he's created an Icos Lamiad from No Fear. And it looks, using parts from like a Tartaros Terminator, an Age of Sigmar model, looks absolutely incredible. So you can check it out on either his personal page at 41st Millennium on Instagram, or the Spaceman with Guns Instagram as well. Definitely go check that out. But you don't see that as much in the Heresy. No. You see that in the Heresy. You don't see that in 40K. And again, it's like the universe of the Heresy is so character and depth and plot and bolter porn. I love bolter porn. I'm not afraid to admit it.
We're all friends.
and you don't quite get that same immersion from 40K, or say the same for Age of Sigmar, but it's not really, you can't really compare it because 40K and Heresy are the same universe, just in different time periods. But
yeah, I agree.
I'm going to quickly touch real quick on the whole elitist thing. When it comes to painting stuff, both Games Workshop and Forge World produce their own lines of paints. Games Workshop produces brushes. They produce their own glue, which is absolute shit, but they produce their own glue for sticking your shit together. Forge World produces their own line of weathering powders. Obviously, they wouldn't do that if painting and decorating your models weren't part of the goddamn experience.
Yep.
Also, okay, so going back, I know I've mentioned this before, clear bases. If you use clear bases, you are not a cloner. And here's my opinion. I've addressed this before. A base allows you to help establish the narrative.
Yes.
For me. So a clear base.
Yeah, it's a context.
Exactly. It's the context of your army. So you can, like my army, it's like the Ultramarines getting the shit beat out of them at Calth. So there's lots of bits and pieces of ruined buildings, and it's very dark. It's like a darkish gray, blue kind of color. There's bits and pieces of dead word bearers all over the bases. And that's why I was having a conversation with a friend recently. He was saying he didn't like the new 32 millimeter bases that came with his Calth box. I'm like, fuck, dude, that's like the best thing that happened to Space Marines was 32 mil bases.
Yeah.
Love them.
You have that much more room to establish the story behind that particular miniature. Now, I haven't done like JP has and named all my individual miniatures. But, it's cool. Each base is different. Tells that story. So clear bases can fuck off. Another thing I wanted to touch on, 40K, you have tournaments. Heresy, you have narrative events. Now, there's a huge difference between that, because if you listen to the Geno 5.2 podcast from, I think it's probably back in March, when Tom went to the SN Battle Reports Heresy event back in, it was the first Heresy event back in Gibraltar for SN Battle Report. He came home from it actually kind of disappointed because it was a tournament. It wasn't a narrative event. At the end of the weekend, there was one person who was the top player. You don't have that with Heresy. It's creating a story behind the event. Like, the loyalists are, trying to defend this sector, but the traitors come in with all this, get kicking shit. And so the loyalists have to defend it. And at the end of the event, you have a side that has won, which consists of
Well, that's because traders suck.
To a competitive 40K gamer. I did about 3 nights ago. It was very fucking hard. Me and Joe had to go in with him and try to hold an event. And he's like, yeah, man, I want to have a 30K tournament. I was like, call it a tournament and you'll have no one fucking show up.
Yeah.
We don't get our rocks off by who fucking wins. It's like, oh, God, no, I'm going to be a badass. No, fuck that. It's a storyline. Actively work together to recreate the storyline, or we all get our jollies off. Two shits
Exactly.
comes in first place. It's them guys. They can't.
Yeah.
He couldn't understand the concept. It was mind-boggling to him. He's like, no, you cannot call it a tournament. It's just not. No. And it took me a good little while to get him to even grasp that concept.
Yeah,
and that's the other.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Cody, go.
No, I was just gonna say, no, I agree 100%. We've seen that down here. Some guys I know personally, they explained to them. I was explaining back up to Stiff 3, kind of explaining like, oh, the other 40K players. They're like, well, they come out and check it out. Never seen a 30K event, so they're like, well, what? They're asking about prize for. What's your prize going to be for like the top dog for the weekend? I was like, oh, there is no top dog for the weekend. There's a winning side. There's best painted. but we don't give awards for most points for an individual like person, because that kind of goes against what a narrative event is. It's about one side versus the other, not about individual achievement. Just like the legions
for winning.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that is kind of a difficult thing for some folks, but then you have people, once they see it and they see the fun and the enjoyment out of it, and they see what it looks like, when you wrap the event up and you are handing out awards for best painted and for best theme and for all this stuff that is not about who beat the most dick over the weekend. People do get it, but you do have some that don't. I do want to slide in a quick clear base thing. I can't stand clear bases. The biggest thing for me, people tell me, oh, it matches any board that you're going to play on.
No.
No, wrong. But what does that say about my army? My Imperial Fists are trench warfare theme. That's what I'm working on. How could I explain a trench warfare theme if they were on clear bases? It would make no sense whatsoever. And I think that stands true for anything. And so it's how do you get those people to understand, because you do have a lot of clear base fans, to say, well, it's just part of your theme. Because I've had people talk like, wow, it's matches any board, or it's just easier because I don't want to paint bases.
It's a cop out.
I couldn't believe it was a real thing. The first time I heard about it, I was like, there's no way that this is a real thing. There's no way there's actually people that do this. And then I Googled it, and I started to cut, like, a piece of me just died inside.
Well, there's one of our TFO guys in Houston, and I'm gonna call him out by name because he's an ardent clear base supporter, and I don't mind calling him out because he is a great hobbyist. His armies look great. He builds great terrain, but it's a TFL Weber. But he and I will argue to our dying days on each side of this. But he's just like, no, they're gonna match any table they show up on. That's why I do this. So yeah, I can see people have their opinions on it, but their opinions don't matter.
Then his army has there's no narrative. There's no story. There's just no. Fuck clear bases. Fuck them.
So,
everyone's entitled to their own wrong opinion.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Hashtag no clear bases. It's gonna be a thing.
Clear basing is not closing. I think I've hashtagged that out before.
And we still love you guys anyway, so you know who you are.
Well, gentlemen, is there anything else you'd like to add? And just, I think we've there's no fucking way heresy is dying. That's just absolute bullshit, and we've covered so many different reasons as to why heresy is alive and well, is in its best state ever. On the, people are finally getting their hands on the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Mine should hopefully be here before too long, and it's just, we are on the precipice of what will most likely be the golden age of heresy. Heresy at this point could not possibly be in a better position, So the whole point of this episode was basically, take a bunch of hardcore pro heresy enthusiasts and just, beat the shit out of somebody that said, no, your game's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. But Samson, what the fuck?
Oh no, just that right there is going to make it the year of heresy.
Okay,
right,
you've got the digital copy. I was like, you better not have a print copy.
I bought fucking both.
Mine's coming tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I've got the digital copy, and the other one will be along shortly.
Tomorrow, I got so much shit supposed to show up tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
I know one thing I've been preaching about the Horus Heresy First Edition rulebook. I've been preaching it on RFI, basically every platform I can. If you like it, buy the book.
Yeah,
that's going to be the best metric they're going to have for what to do with the heresy in the future. And so far, y'all have not disappointed. Like, Jesus Christ, y'all shut the fucking webpage down.
Yeah,
God bless the poor bastard that was sitting there on Christmas Day having to try to rewire the internet at Forge World just so we can buy a stupid book. But that's their fault. They shouldn't have released it on damn Christmas.
That's what I was saying.
I was honestly expecting it the Friday before. That's what I was kind of preparing for. But be that as it may, we got it. They got their shit sorted out. Everyone's got their books on the way. I think Derek's point's a great one. Buy the book to show your support. The other thing is, I just want to kind of reiterate, you own the scene in your area. Our scene when I first started playing, was just myself and TFLJ, the Silent Giant. It was just us. We traveled to our first Adepticon back when they were at the old location. We were so like hard for Heresy at that early stage, but nobody we knew was playing, anywhere nearby. So we convinced our wives a vacation to Chicago was something we had to do. So we went as a couples trip. We put
Normal.
We put the wives
Nothing
up downtown.
sexual.
Well, yeah, amongst each other, yeah. Put the wives up downtown and
playing with a bunch of other dudes.
yeah, and then Jay and I drove out to the event and checked it out. But our thing was when we got home is how do we grow it? And it was just showing up at the local game store, talking to people that would listen, showing off our armies when people would come in. And that's how we got we started. We got Josh, and Josh drug in Zach, who was starting to get back into 40K. We got Monty, and it from there we formed TFL, and it's just kind of gone from there. We got the guys in Houston now. We're actually 2018 is kind of going to be a rebuilding year, hopefully in our area, because we've had some talks about this before this was even a discussion here with this article. How do we re-energize Heresy locally? Because while we've got all these media outlets through RFI, through TFL, we travel to a lot of events throughout the year. We outside of Stiff, we kind of been neglecting our local community, and so we're looking at a couple of things for 2018. A slow grow campaign, which we've got the support of one of the local shops. Doing maybe a small event series locally. So yeah, just take ownership of your area. If you feel it's dying, then what can you do to fix it?
And definitely, if you're in that situation, there are so many outlets. I mean, you've got TFL, all these different podcasts. Reach out to one of us. We'll be more than happy to give you some ideas. And try and help you out to help your community out. I mean, we're all
A
here
good old
for.
dude looking for dude.
Yeah, dude's looking for
Absolutely.
stuff.
Everything
We will
from
help
advice to trying to hook people up with you. We got you.
We are always happy to help out dudes looking for other dudes to play some Heresy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's or girls looking for dudes to play Heresy.
That's very true. Sorry,
That's,
we did not mean to
Wait,
be
can't
sexist.
you use the term dude, like, isn't it non-gender specific? Like, just
To
true.
some people, to other people, they hear dude and they get all pissed off.
we'll just treat it like it's Spanish, where if you have a group of both, male and female, you just use the one term and then it's fine. Just dudes.
Oh no, I know plenty of female dudes. Like,
Yeah.
it's never been an issue for me.
That's a whole other podcast.
Well,
hey, George, if you don't mind, there's one other topic.
Yes.
I'll make it brief, but something I want to throw out here. I would just encourage people, if you have an opinion, and we'll use the author's opinion here, Heresy's dying, it's fine. It's okay to have that opinion. It's okay to write these articles, but, be open when people give you feedback, because the last thing you want to do is shut down, ignore evidence to the contrary of what you're trying to say. It really doesn't help strengthen your position. And the same holds true, for us, and I use us as a general term of the pro horse heresy is not dying crowd. Be open to what these other folks are saying, because I think through the discussion tonight, there were some points that were mentioned from the article that, like, okay, we could see how it might be perceived in a certain way. We're open to that viewpoint, but here's why we think differently. And so I would just encourage folks that are out there in internet land, just be open to that. Don't immediately be aggressive if someone doesn't agree with your opinion, because it usually doesn't end well for you.
Well, you won't learn anything.
Yeah.
There's always something to learn.
Yeah, you won't learn anything. People will start to see, like, oh, here's so-and-so. we're going to dismiss his opinion now because of how our reactions to the last time there was criticism. So you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to help the scene out. So be open, have a discussion. Don't be closed off to it, I guess is all I'm trying to say.
Pretty, is that a Magpul stock on that? Sorry.
It is indeed, sir.
I love it. That's what I just got for Christmas.
I want to piggyback on just a little bit and kind of take it even a little bit further. Like you said, it's totally okay to have an opinion, and just be prepared for people to ream you for having that opinion regardless. But if you're going to do something like this, if you're going to write an op-ed piece like this, this guy obviously doesn't know anything about journalism, because you need to provide evidence beyond more than just you play with. Because the entire problem that I had with this article, it offers absolutely zero substantive evidence that heresy is actually involved.
Yeah.
Other than, oh, well, they didn't go to 8th edition, so it's terrible. That was a mistake. Whatever. That is not concrete evidence. That is not empirical evidence that you can recreate. You need to provide evidence. And then the end of it was, oh, and must be saved. Okay, well, here's the thing. He did not provide a single solution to the problem other than going to 8th edition, which would, in fact, ruin the game, because, look, RFI's own Ryan Kimmel he left, and then thankfully he came back. But there was literally no evidence offered to support his idea that heresy was dying. And again, nothing offered as a solution to the problem that he didn't explain. So again, if you're it's totally okay to do this. And we're all kind of jumping on this because it's just so outrageous as far as we're concerned. But again, you need to actually adhere by some journalistic and scientific standards. Provide evidence, the old scientific method. Come up with a hypothesis. Test your hypothesis. Check your results, and then come to your conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay? So, okay. So.
No, I agree 100%, man. I think that's well said.
You would like to add before we call this episode to a close?
I'd like to shout out my event we're actually doing here in Nashville.
Awesome.
Doing a narrative heresy event in May 18th through the 20th. You can just search on YouTube, what the hell? Search on Facebook for Music City Heresy to get all the information. It's a group. Just join it. Check it out. The event is Circulus Ignis, which is Latin that translates into Ring of Fire because Johnny Cash and stuff, Come on now.
You guys are so smart out there with your Latin event names and stuff. Man.
Yeah, well, we're gonna be doing the event. Like I said, it's gonna be on a Saturday. We're doing the main event. Not the minor details, but it's gonna be 2,500 points laid out here really soon. Friday before.
Is this Music City Heresy? Is this what we're talking about, or is this a different thing? Okay, yes. Okay. Just want to make sure.
The name of the event is Ignis Circulus, whatever. Ignis Circulus. I can't even remember it now. Ignis. That's the name of the event, but it's Act 2 because last year was Act 1. But the Friday of POC game, whatever you pay to register, we'll cover both events. Make money. We're in it just to have fun, and it is BYOB. So,
yee.
Nice.
Huge selling point.
Samson, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna put my Igneous in your Circulus.
It's fucking sounds amazing.
Money can't buy that.
So we hope you guys can show up. We've got room for 20. It's free register now. You can help blow it out, and then we can prepare for more. Appreciate it.
Is pre-register open right now? Can we register?
Yes, it's open. It's open today.
Oh, hot damn! Hang on.
Yeah, you pay for the pass to get into the GT because it is GT.
Circulus.
No. Music City Heresy. Music City Heresy, and then follow.
That's probably a lot easier.
Top link, but to pre-register it's $45, but that covers your 3-day pass for the GT. 2 events with that. Friday night, and then the main event on Saturday. And then we have all of our stuff is going to be there for open gaming on Sunday. because I don't
Nice.
usually pack up till like 6, 7 o'clock on Sunday.
Excellent.
I got
So
that.
is there
Yeah.
where can folks go to find that information?
Like I said, it's you just get on Facebook, Music City Heresy. The information is on Music City Heresy.
Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, kick
Well,
ass.
Jim-
Mother's Day is the weekend before that. I won't be doing it 2 years in a row.
I would like
Yeah.
to thank you all so much. Pretty, Samson, Derek, and Jake. Thank you guys so much for coming on with this episode.
Thank you
Thanks
for having
for
us.
So I'm going to ask
Thank you.
one little favor before we go. I want you to think of that one Primarch that you just can't stand, that you just hate, and you just wish would just go fuck themselves in the ass. And just think of them and just follow my example. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Fuck Lorgar.
In the ass.
Lorgar's a bitch.
You know what? Fuck Girly Man just for that. that wasn't who I was choosing, but all this Lorgar hate, I can't let that go unchallenged.
Hey, it's not the first time we've had one of those thrown out there. It's okay. It's okay. Derek, how about you? Do you hate any of the Primarchs?
Fuck Magnus.
Fuck
Oh,
Magnus.
Magnus the Red is a bitch.
Ooh.
Derek's my boy.
Nice.
Magnus did nothing wrong.
Fake news.
Yeah,
Fake
tell that
news.
to the webway.
Oh,
Opposite land.
it's like we're in the upside down. I don't know.
All right, folks, you can find us on Facebook. We have the Spacemen with Guns podcast Facebook group. You can find us on Instagram. We are at SMWG podcast. You can find Dave's work on his personal page. He's at 41st Millennium. My personal page at the Mediocre Modeler. And if you've ever got a list or event or anything you want to shout out or anything you'd like us to cover on the show, go ahead and shoot us an email, smwgpod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Adios.
Recording.
Good night, everybody.
John boy.
We're still live for the time being.
Okay.
Oh, I figure I should probably ask. Cussing's okay, right?
Of course.
Because I've been
Of
like,
course.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
I didn't
drop
think
a
to
few
ask that
in
until
there.
like my like
You asked
fifth
that
F
at the
bomb.
tail end of the conversation.
Attaboy,
Yes.
Derek.
Stop to record.
Right as you close up the show. Hey, do you mind if I swear a fucking little?
I've said fuck every other word for the last hour, but
You know, it's how it goes.
yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, this was fun, man. I enjoyed doing this.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I've never done a live show before, so
Still
this is
live.
kind of interesting. Kind of fun.
Yeah, I've
It's still live.
oh yeah. Yeah, people are
Still
taking
alive.
the after show. So we shouldn't
Still
say
alive.
anything
After
totally,
the parties, the after
totally
party.
inappropriate.
You can watch it on YouTube later.
Yeah.
I haven't updated my build log videos for a couple of weeks, so they can watch this instead.
Oh shit, we have chat.
Yeah, Andrew from San Antonio is in the chat. JP is in the chat.
No
Yeah,
one's
man, I was
chatting
pouring
now.
it out on a couple of groups.
Yeah. Yeah, I put it in South Texas. or
George,
Sarah
you should do
City.
these more often.
Yeah.
So we can whore you out.
Yeah, people like to watch live. So kind of what we figured out.
That's what I like.
I wouldn't mind being played out for some heresy, but yeah. I mean, all my build log videos have been lately. It's just working on the ash ram.
Yeah, I've been watching those.
Yeah, I've watched them also.
Oh, good.
I'm pretty big fan of the ASRAM. That
That
was
thing has been-
so. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
When you said you had it soda blasted, I was like, holy shit. Soda blasted a model? This motherfucker is legit putting in some time on this ass ramp. Like,
No,
you get
I'm in an
fenders
IPM.
on your 76 Nova soda blasted.
Well, I'm in an IPMS club, and it just so happens there's a guy in the club who has a soda blasting setup, and he'd actually done a plane for me years ago. And it's like I got this thing as far as I could with the rubbing alcohol, and I took it into the club meeting, and I gave him some airplane kits, and he had it. He had the ASRAM for a couple of weeks, probably a month. He came back, and I'm just like, holy fuck! There's like no paint left on this thing. This is
Yeah, soda blasting is a beautiful thing. You
Yeah.
can soda blast a car and not even have to tape up the windows or the trim.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
Made an absolute enormous difference. I mean, the thing assembled. Like today, I started working on some of the gaps because there's just some absolutely terrible gaps in it, but stock laying around that it's just easy to, put the gap. I can shape it and green stuff it later, but doing the lights was actually not nearly as difficult as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's one of the vehicles that I'm super excited to see lighting in. I had an ASRAM for my Red Scorpions, and I had one for my Iron Hands, and just absolutely loved it. But I painted the interior of both, but they didn't have lights, and I was always disappointed because I'd open the doors and I'm like, well, if you shine your light in there, you can see some of the cool stuff I did. But just having the lights in there, and I'm just totally enthused by that. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Hey, Samson,
Yo.
I just signed up for your event.
Yeah.
How hot are you right now?
I am fucking moist.
That boy moister than an oyster.
Moisture than moisture. I like that.
I'm trying to buy some more ZM boards. Man.
Just make your own.
Huh? Build my own? Yeah, George, you don't know me well enough yet.
Hey, Andrew's still in the chat. Hey, Andrew, if you're listening, listening, Andrew, or do you still have those ZM boards for sale? I think it was Andrew that was selling them here a couple of months ago. I don't know if they ever sold or not in San Antonio.
Ooh.
So
I got money from a Warlord sale coming in tomorrow. Ooh.
Yeah, let me oh, okay, never mind. He sold them to Paul 1.
Damn.
Is he selling them?
Probably not. I think Paul 1 sold them. We have Paul 1 and Paul 2 in San Antonio. Some of the great guys over at Golar's 222nd Gaming Club, who TFL has gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years. So
yeah, I've played more Heresy with Golars in San Antonio than I have with TFL.
Yeah, that's pretty true, actually.
That's not pretty true. That's totally true.
Well,
that's a fact.
We did have that.
That is the fucking gospel.
We did have that TFL game day, but I think we each got one game in.
That was the one game I played in Victoria.
Well, see that's why we're talking about building the scene back here in town.
Hell
man.
yeah. Yeah, no, I know y'all have all been like super blasted after Adepticon last year.
Oh, we came back and it was just like hobby hangover.
It was like Stiff 3, and then the next weekend after was Adepticon. Everybody's just like, man, y'all are cool. I don't want to see y'all for a little bit. I'll see y'all in a couple months. No offense.
Yeah, I saw Josh and I saw Jay. I didn't see Michael or Zach for a little while after that, but yeah, everybody kind of went their separate directions and recouped. But yeah, that's the last time we'll ever put on a major event here. And then 2 days later, climb in the car and drive 20 hours. Yeah, it was, it was not good. Not good. So I'm really glad this year we have nothing between now and Adepticon. I know a couple of guys are going to the Texas Toy Soldier event put on by Lone Star Legion in Dallas next weekend. But outside of that, I think Michael, I don't know if Monty's still going to LVO or not. But yeah, it's a clear shot from here to Adepticon for most of us, which is good, man. Like I said, we need that time, and I think Michael and Tim from IF Horse are still flying into Texas before Adepticon, so we'll have that weekend before spending time with them and showing them some Texas hospitality before we hit the road together for that Adepticon road trip.
Hey, Jake.
See.
Guess what I'm going to put in for the musical break?
What?
Jolene.
Oh, yeah. That's what we need.
You got to, man. Perfect.
What was it?
Jolene.
Your beauty is beyond compare. Your flowing locks of auburn hair.
That is my nickname in the chat. Smartass.
Yeah, it's better.
I love it. All right, guys. So I got to log out. We got to go to Houston in the morning and settle up my wife's
oh shit, it's midnight.
Identity fraud shit in the morning. So what's that?
Oh, fuck you, Samson.
Tomorrow's gonna be my first day back to work in like 12 days. That's gonna be terrible.
I know them feels. It's gonna suck so hard.
I don't go back till Friday. I got a few more days left on mine.
Yeah, I got to go back to.
Pretty, hit me up sometime if you're free this week, because I think I work Thursday and Friday. Other than that, dude, I'm off.
Yeah, we need to try to get something. I was talking to Cody. Cody and I were going to try to game, but he goes back to work tomorrow. So maybe Wednesday afternoon we can set something up.
That'd be dope.
Get a game in. But yeah, I'll let you know. Faux show.
All right. Well,
Hell yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for those of you left. Thank you all for tuning in and listening and watching us. It was
Thanks,
a great
George.
time. Probably one of the best episodes I'll ever put out. So,
Thanks for having us. Good times.
so folks, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime. And again, guys, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast.
Absolutely.
Peace
for having
out.
Thanks, George.
me. Later.
Hey, George, don't sign out just yet, George. I mean, you can disconnect from live, but
So I just hit stop broadcast.
yeah, just hit stop broadcast.